Welcome everybody back to another entry into our CONVOS series. Today joining me is Nick Petty from The Happies. I'm very happy to speak to him today.
Thank you, man. Stoked to be here.
First of all, congrats on the new album. You guys just released it. I'm sure that's got to be, a good feeling to have it finally out there in the wild.
Yeah, no, it's great. It took a long time because COVID and stuff like that, and we were recording and just had to be kind of careful with while recording during it. It was like the peak of it. It took like I think it's the longest time 4 years or so.
Yeah, it was a rough time for especially a lot of musicians specifically because you guys got to tour and do everything else. Recording it was very difficult for a lot of people.
But yeah, so it's a big relief, and it was like a heavy time and a lot of bad times, a lot of good times.
Yeah,
one of those periods where things were really heavy, then really accelerating and stuff. So it was cool.
Oh, here we are. And, we're going to talk about the album for sure. But also I want to give people like our listeners and the viewers, everything kind of a little backstory into you guys. So for you personally, like how did you get your start in music?
Well, I always wrote music. I wasn't really like a performer and stuff like that. I always, I'd hear like a hodgepodge of music, the 90s where I grew up in the early 90s. And, I would hear like 4 songs and my head would start kind of like churning out like a hodgepodge. And around like 2009 or 10, I went through kind of a bad drug period and stuff, and got caught up in just the lifestyle. I got caught up in the whole opiate thing, the big opiate epidemic and stuff back in like 2009. And when I got in trouble and went through like all the stuff that comes with that to kind of get out of it, I kind of lost a lot of fears and stuff and things forming and stuff, and be kind of more kind of driven to perform and stuff in front of people. Cause like I had gone through jails and really, detox centers and just crazy stuff that I didn't even think that I could get through. And so after going through all that crap, I was like, if I can get through all that stuff and overcome that, I could push myself to play live. So I think around like 2011 I started playing live. And I don't know. It's weird. When I was younger, I would not see I always thought I could perform or like ironically kind of like make people laugh or some shit like that. But like singing in front of people, I had kind of a preconception about it, but I kind of got over it. When I got out of the whole drug situation.
Okay. So would you say music kind of saved you a little bit?
Oh, definitely. It was like it's kind of how people use like yoga. They like transcend somewhere else. I kind of feel like there's like the side of myself that's kind of like boring and pretty kind of sedated and normal and shit. And then I got like this side that is like flamboyant and crazy and shit on stage. You know what I mean? Like, I guess like an alter ego with a lack of better words.
It's kind of like an outlet,
Yeah.
Okay. So how'd you guys form as a band? And then like, where'd the name The Happies, like, what does that allude to? Where'd that come from?
I remember I was like, had this big list. I write all the songs and stuff, but I've had like some primary members in the band for a long time. Like Brett Brazil, the bassist, has been in the band a long time, like 6 or 7 years. And Alex Sanchez, our guitarist, was in like the same circle and in other bands we'd play with. And then the drummer worked in my bassist. So just growing up in the Bay Area and stuff, just all the open mic scenes and crap like that, or little shows above an open mic, kind of just like you play and you kind of law of attraction type thing. Like, specific people flock to, they're like, oh, that type of music's cool. That isn't us. And, people take kind of like school, people take like what branch they connect in or identify with more, I guess, and kind of jump into it. But when I started, and a lot of people were in the band and they just didn't pan out. And a lot of them, or pretty much every single one actually are still like really good friends. But this lineup we have now is just like kind of more people serious and doing it for a living and stuff like that, rather than like kind of, people halfway in or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's just kind of what spoke from like what I kind of, with what I want to do with and what the band wants to do.
Okay. And, the name Happies, how'd you come up with that one?
Well, I had like a big list. This was at like a halfway house type thing. I had like a huge list of names. Like it's a lot of weird ones. Like I remember the name was like Nick Petty and Water, which is pretty funny. Like looking back. And then there was like the Cans and all these like just weird names. And these kind of resonated. Like in the Bay Area, you have like the hyphy movement, and hyphy to some people kind of means like hyperactive and shit. And, like in a weird way, like kind of like with this album, it's like ADHD, which is something I had a lot growing up. And my friends at the time, one of them were ADHD kids. It was kind of like tied into that. And then like it served as a good name for like kind of in a nihilistic kind of type way, where it's like the world isn't that happy and there's shit like going wrong with it. You got like shootings and drug overdoses. You have every type of thing you can imagine under the sun that kind of sucks or whatever. So it kind of encapsulated a little slice of that too, that's why like we have like either like a smiley face and there's like a tear and it's smiling where it's like, it's almost there, but it's not like quite there. Like sometimes the happies and it's like, it's just like a little touch on that too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mentioned kind of like that juxtaposition, because even some of your like song lyrics, you're not necessarily talking about the happiest thing, but then it's like, you got the happiest. I like that. What a
fantastic word too. Like that's kind of like the type of word I was looking for, like juxtaposition. That's a great way to put it.
Awesome. So for people that like don't know you guys, like how would you describe your music to like a new listener or something?
Me and the band always talk about this a lot. Like I just alternative indie rock, and then it's got like surf influence and hip hop influence. Growing up in the Bay Area, like I really liked like Tupac, and I liked who else? Like we played once or twice like Del the Funky Homo Sapien and people from Hieroglyphics. There's a touch of that. There's a touch of like Sublime type culture, and even like mainstream like Bob Marley and Beach Boys and shit like that. So there's like a mix of that. And our guitarist as of late, like he uses a lot of like surf tone and stuff like that, so it's got a healthy like dose of surf in it. And like even like small slices of like classical music and shit like find their way in. But mainly I just call it like be under the umbrella probably of like something like a band like Weezer-ish or something like that, or something kind of.
Okay. I mean, that also brought me to one thing I was gonna say. Like, I've spent, some time in the Bay Area too. And it's like, it's a very unique place, especially like musically. And I feel like everybody kind of just listens to everything and kind of all gets like mixed around and stuff. So I definitely noticed that. And like, how would you say that's influenced, your music making, like songwriting and stuff like that?
Well, in the Bay Area, that's a great question. Like the Bay Area, I find it has like a big healthy dose of like psychedelic music.
Oh yeah.
And then you MCs, you have bands like even the Residual Energy. You have like bands that were like Sly Stone and Steve Miller and Metallica and crap like that. So it's like it's tough. I don't even know, like I don't know if I grew up somewhere else. I'm sure I'd have like a slightly different taste, but a lot of the music I listened to was just from like a lot of like mixtapes and shit like that. More than just the Bay Area. It was more of like the time I grew up in. I think you had like people burning tapes, or like, so you'd have like country, rap, rock, hip hop. You'd have like every single slice of shit, and grunge. I think to get back to the Bay Area, I think like there's a touch of a little bit of psychedelic and a little bit of like blues and stuff from it. And from the shows available, like I said, like I go to little rap battles or whatever. Like they'd have this thing in Fillmore Street where they'd have a live band and you go on. And I was really into hip hop because of lyrics. I thought like lyrics, you could kind of reach out to people's soul and shit. If you have cool lyrics, you can kind of tap in with people. So I got a little slice of that. Psychedelic, kind of like the stoner culture, a little bit out of that. Kind of laid back community vibe. Reggae and stuff like Revolution, and for a while was out of SF and bands like that. So we go to like Reggae on the River and stuff like that in Humboldt County, or like there was this thing called Harmony Fest, which would have like skateboarders and a lot of reggae music. Yeah, just like it's weird. I really tied in though a lot with Sublime and Nirvana as a kid, and I don't really know why. I don't know if that's like that like dysfunctional youth type thing. But when I was real young, I didn't really catch on. But around like 15 or 14, I was like, it had a really powerful message of me, that music. I just related with like the angst or something of it, or street culture mixed with suburbs culture. Kind of, it resonated with me a lot. But yeah, you know, they're all the way. I guess like if you had like, you got Seattle and then you have Long Beach, and in between is kind of NorCal.
Yeah, so it's like a mix. It's definitely like a mix of everything.
Maybe, yeah, it's weird.
As I said, Bear is like a very unique place and sound, like that always comes out of there. Always.
Yeah. Are you from? Where are you from, actually?
I mean, I'm based in like Arizona, but I went to school out near towards Reno and stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we Reno the other night, and then we're playing Arizona. But our family is close to moving to Arizona for a minute, and but I always thought Arizona had a good. They have a scene that's doing pretty good too. I think like people kind of say, "Oh, I wish I was born like, you know, as like a teenager in the 90s and all that." But I really do think that like people are in for a surprise in music, or even if they don't realize it looking back, they'll be like, "Oh, this is music." Oh, yeah. I really think so.
Yeah, the scene's definitely growing more out here too. So
yeah, vibrancy out there for sure.
So I want to say, like, first of all, again, congrats on ADHD.
Thank you.
Finally coming out. Kind of I want to talk about kind of what its story behind, you know, like a couple of things notice, like, you know, album title and then album cover, because obviously that's also a very interesting thing for you.
Well, ADHD, like, so I wrote one album called Trippin', and that wasn't like necessarily psychedelic. It had like some touch of that, but it was kind of more like anxiety per se. And then after that, I had Bipolar, which was kind of like an ode to like in the recovery period, like very heavy on in that. I had a lot of friends who were suffering with that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you're around people, you kind of, for a minute, doctors thought I was or whatever. But when you're young, it's easy to be like, oh, things are really good. Oh, things are really bad and shit.
Yeah.
And, but ADHD is more personal, and it kind of tapped into like, I had a lot of people I grew up with that said, you know, like growing up with ADHD, they kind of felt like almost like, you know, slow because their head was just somewhere else. People would be like, dude, like, you know, what's going on with you and stuff like that, like focus. And it was kind of like how it felt like a weird kind of like disadvantage where I felt kind of like, I don't want to use the word like stupider, but I did kind of feel like I didn't fit in the stuff that was really prevalent to me and was speaking to me, like was not, like, you know, it led to kind of hard times at times or challenging times. And I think like, I remember doctors saying like, you know, people with ADD have a chance, horrible statistics on like drug use and holding jobs and stuff like that. And so it's just kind of an ode to the people dealing with that, or even if they're not dealing with that, the people who had to kind of go through the doctors kind of pre-labeling them and stuff like that. And, you know, the title track has kind of like breakups and stuff to do with ADHD and, you know, drug use and depression. as kind of a sidestep from having ADHD. Like, and I didn't tap too much into like meds on this album but growing up I was on Adderall, and I mean, you name it, I was on it for ADD. And I don't really knock the meds because in high school with math and stuff, they did help me kind of graduate school as a younger kid. And but it's not your personality. They kind of like, make you kind of a zombie if you have ADD, while as other people who take it get kind of hyper or whatever. But yeah, it's just like this whole album has like a lot of songs are kind of random, but a big tie-in with it is kind of that, how like living with ADD, it's not always just like looking around really fast and stuff like that. It's more like you feel kind of normal.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of euphoria that comes with ADHD, like craziness and like debauchery and crap like that. Just being like a kind of degenerate, like goofball type thing, a little element of that.
Awesome. And the album cover, kind of the background on that one, I think.
Yeah.
That was like your dad, like a tribute to your dad, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So my dad passed in cancer in 2019, and really interesting, like that album cover, because it's like a day-to-day thing, like sometimes I'm like, it hits me pretty hard, it's kind of like, I mean, shit, I look at my dad and there's like characteristics that I'll like look in the mirror sometimes. I'm like, damn, I kind of like look like my dad and blah, 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 blah. And it'll open up like kind of, like grieving a little bit. Yeah. But it was just an ode, like my dad, standard, just kind of average dad, kind of passionate, sometimes had hard times, sometimes, and like, so I just thought like I wanted to kind of do an ode to him, like, and I always liked that one picture because it was kind of stoic. He was an SF fireman, and back then shit was kind of crazy, and they didn't have like quite as much fire technology and shit, and it was kind of more hands-on. I think that picture kind of capsulates like a side that I want to kind of show my dad, like kind of looking up at a fire, and just kind of an interesting picture for me. And just want to honestly pay respects to my dad, and for all the shit that he put up with, when he was around, like, and it makes me just feel like honestly a little bit better about the whole thing, because he got cancer out of nowhere, and it was one that was like so quick. He had pancreatic cancer, and that's just like a really fast.
Yeah, it's a terrible one.
Yeah, it's like just you got like 3 months or 4 months. So I just want to do something in his honor and stuff. I'm kind of a family oriented person and stuff. Like I'm kind of an artist where I'm introverted, but I really respect my family a lot. So I just kind of like that. And for the band, if they, or something, maybe something similar down the lines, we'll do something like that too. Just kind of an ode to let them live on.
Yeah, I mean, it's an epic picture, and I think it's.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
A tragic thing. That past.
Yeah.
Also, like, it's amazing that you can immortalize somebody like that.
Yeah. I felt blessed that I was able to like have some sort of weird platform that allowed me to do that. Like wearing print out a shirt or something. But if you're in a band, you can kind of. It was cool because like. My dad, as a fireman and stuff, at times there were times where he was like, man, this music thing, this shit is crazy. I don't know what you're, you need to get like, right. You need to get a trade, But near the end, the band started getting on the radio more. And he had a friend who was a comedian who would host people, his best friend growing up. And they would, host people like Dana Carvey, Jerry Seinfeld, and Robin Williams, all like the SF kind of come up people. Yeah. And so he was like, Nick, like his videos are really good, and he'll be all right, and So near the end, it kind of panned out better and stuff like that, and we had a lot of really cool times and heart to hearts like before he had passed. So that was really good, and I felt like I got more closure than would, like, if their dad had like a heart attack or something or whatever, you know, some people, I'm well aware some people don't even have a dad or shit like that. I think about that like every day whenever I don't want to put in the work as a band, or I think about that shit all the time. People with cancer, it comes to that. If you, I think, you know what I mean? If you really want to get some shit done, you have to find some deep rooted shit in the world to motivate you, because we're all geared to kind of be lazy and shit, you know? And
yeah, we all go through our moments for sure, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
The creative process isn't easy. And
no.
It kind of brings me to like a question, like how you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier about how you just took you guys an extra long time to because of the pandemic and everything. So like, how was the creative process this time around compared to like some of your other stuff?
Well, our band, like, we have a management, but we're kind of indie and stuff like that. So we track our own stuff. We have a booking agent, but we also, you know, we find touch tours, and we all do like a lot of hands-on shit, you know? And, but the creative process for recording, it's like a little bit better now. Like, we just kind of record out of my guitarist, out of his garage, which he converted very well, into a studio. And our, during that pandemic, my bassist, was a studio manager, Very Sun Studios, which it's a super iconic studio. Like, they had like such a wide variety of artists, like from like Primus to Wu-Tang Clan to Huey Lewis, and like such a revolution, like huge brushstroke of artists. So like, I feel like we're at a good place now where the way we do songs most of the time, like, because like the whole root of the Happies is kind of therapeutic writing shit out. I kind of just like record a shitload of songs, and then the band will come in and like, you know, they like we have a system down, they just format it. They know how it's going to go, and they know what will make it cool, and they'll come in with some good ideas. But our bassist is a really good producer from, he worked with like the Killers and, the lady from Heart, the band, and during his time there. So he had to, when you're like kind of put under the thumb really quick with these big artists, he had to learn like sink or swim really fast. So we have a good recording ethic now, where we used to record mainly at the studio out in Emeryville, Oakland area. And we'll probably have that guy in Oakland and Emeryville, Donut Time Audio, at least mix and master. But it's going to be more of like kind of like the Foo Fighters, where they do it out of like a home, and where we already rehearse, and you kind of feel like, I guess, like more comfortable. Yeah. You're already in the spot you're at. Mm-hmm. You're not tripping about, oh my God, we have like 5 hours and we had to record this many. There was a little bit of that on the album, but not as bad as the second EP we did. So I think like moving forward, we'll be in a good spot, fortunately.
Okay. So how would you say like you guys have evolved from, you know, your early days in music to like now? Do you just notice like a huge difference in your sound? And
yeah, I think the morale of the band is more like from stage presence to rehearsing, and like people rehearsing before we're on stage. And like, I had a thing with on tour where I would get like laryngitis or vocal hoarseness. So like I cut down on, or I pretty much quit smoking, and I use like steam things and stuff like that. And just I study music more. I think the band studies music more. Everybody, one cool thing is we played with Eric Wilson of Sublime. He has a side project, and through his camp, like we got a lot of like really, really powerful motivation through like these legends, you know, that like you need that shit when you're barely scraping by, and you need a bigger artist to be like, fuck all the people who didn't believe in you. Like, I believe in you guys. You guys are hella sick. I really like it. Like that shit does a lot for me. And with his blessing, cause you know, Nirvana and Sublime were like my favorites. So when someone like that is like, dude, it was really, really profound for us. I I definitely got some motivation through that. Shit like that keeps me motivated to keep practicing. So we've just had a couple little like inspirational people come in our camp and believe in us more than in the past couple of years. So I think that added a healthy boost of morale to take on what the music industry is. As you know, it's like insane, you know?
I mean, it takes a while to kind of like learn the industry for sure, you know? So
yeah.
Get a little more professional as years go by. So, also I just want to ask, like, out of the whole album, what track or tracks, which ones like are your favorites? Which ones stand out to you the most?
Listen For Me, I think is a really big, just like that word you use, juxtaposition, like where it's like a really trippy kind of like, hippied out mixed with like, kind of early 90s alternative. It touches on grieving, like with my dad, and then an ex-girlfriend, and then really like just a good friend had died right after my dad. So, you know, I just always like shit that was hands-on and like kind of gave a lot of a person, or, you know, like they're speaking on a lot. Maybe it's like they're pushing themselves out of their comfort zone. I think on that song, there's a little bit of that. ADHD is another good one. Breathe Comfortably and One Who's Stupid are some of mine. But I honestly, like, I have a lot of love for this album. I've had other projects where I was like, not as like, kind of like, oh, I could have done this and that, you know, a little bit of like perfectionism. But on this album, I really liked how they mastered it. And I gave the guy like a list. He's like, give me like all the albums you want specific songs to like be mastered. So I really studied like really intricate songs. And since, you know, it's such a heavy time, I think like that was the hard part. I was going through a lot of shit and grieving and kind of a mess listening to this heavy shit. And then, but when the project was done, that was kind of like the euphoric part where I was like, I really do like, I'm really proud of the record. And I haven't really had that a lot. And I don't, you know, like life, I think in the future will have similarities with like little things. But, you know, when you as a parent, it's such like a crazy thing sometimes, like you, so I think this album seriously is a little bit more, I like it a little bit more in some ways than some of our earlier shit, which is not always how it goes. Like on our Bipolar, there were some parts of it I was like not really chill. Could be a little bit better here and there. Layered more. I'm into layers, like Beatle-y type shit, like multiple vocal layers to like thicken it up so it's really like in your head and shit, you know. But yeah, I guess ADHD is a good one. Breathe Comfortably, Listen For Me, and One Who's Stupid, which is actually like a really old song, the skeleton of it, like going back seriously, like Jesus, like over 10 years. Almost. And then, you know, like revisited it. I was like, you know, but yeah, there's like 4 songs I really kind of keep listening to, and then I get tired of them and listen to the others. You know how that goes. Like,
I mean, the whole album sounded great, you know.
Thank you, man.
I made a few styles for me. I was like Only Problem. Like I really liked Only Problem. I love the breakdowns. Like I love how everything, like, you know, I just,
thank you.
Like really hits with me. So I really like that song. I Just Don't Know. That's another I really liked. It was like, it just kind of like wavy, like a very wavy type of sound, you know, very. And then,
thank you, man.
And then was Grapes.
Yeah. Dude, that's the fucking hard part though. It like kind of goes back to that thing with where I was saying like how, since we dropped those as singles, I think that like how I speak, I think I listened to them so much that it's kind of channeling. Does that make sense? Like I listened to them. Like if you asked me 4 months ago or something, I probably literally would have said like the singles, because that's why we put them out. You know, you put out singles like, but Only Problem, one weird thing about writing, and this is something that I was kind of tripping on, is like Only Problem kind of, it's like it's kind of a relationship thing, or like maybe you're hanging out with somebody and they're always negative or they're always on drugs. But in another way, kind of like in hindsight, you kind of write shit and you don't know like what you're talking about. And I think that's kind of like on like bad mental health and like addiction kind of, it's like, that's the only problem. If I didn't have that, I'd be good. And sometimes that shit like comes up and you're like, oh shit, I think that's kind of more like what it meant to me, but I didn't really know what I was like writing about.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like I had like a realization with that where I'd be all good except this the only problem is this shit or whatever.
I mean, it definitely resonated with me because, man, like I said, I've heard a few times the album already, and I was like, wait, are these the singles? And I was like, oh, these are the singles. I was like, oh, so I think you guys picked the right ones for singles because those.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You know, and then obviously the other tracks, it's just more you listen, will come back on.
Yeah.
So what has the overall reception been to the album?
It's been good, and I'm lucky for that because like we all know that shit is not guaranteed. Like really not at all. Yeah, especially it's kind of the sophomore album. Like we had an EP, but it's the second album, and some people had like a sophomore curse, but I got like way more messages and shit than on the other ones, like about the album. And so like I said, like I don't necessarily consider when you put out art main reasons why it can be or can't be received. So I felt like, with lack of better words, it connected good and people like it a lot. So that, like I said, I don't know why. Like there's even been albums in the past from other people where I'm like, oh, that's a sick album, but some people don't really tie in with it, and I don't know why. I'm like, oh, that was a good album, but I guess just it worked out and we're able to, with this tour, be able to like, when you tour, you play it in, you get really tight. You're spending so much time together and playing so much that we have a really healthy way of being able to like, solidify and get these songs around the States as we go, which is cool. But yeah, it's been good. And people said a lot of the things you did. Grapes got a lot of good feedback. I was stoked to do that.
I was like, it was just very like a Bay Area song to me. Like,
yeah.
Very 2000s Bay Area, like that brought me back for sure.
Yeah, and I love the whole thing where artists would have like a hip hop artist or like some whatever it is, whether it's like a weird ass like saxophone playing or spoken word, whatever. Yeah. So that was cool linking up with E-Money on that, and he seen for a long time through the hip hop community with Team Backpack. That was this big platform they had for hip hop back in the day. And then he was like on top of that, and then was on this MTV show, Are You the One? It was like a dating show, and he won $1 million, or they all won as a group. They got to connect like the right things, but he was rapping on MTV. So that was like the first music on MTV in like 20 years or some shit.
That's really cool. So your tour just started, right? I guess, how's it going? Are you guys just gonna kind of like mix up the set list as you go on? This is gonna be most of the album, and then you kind of figure it out as you go?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of things, like a lot of street promo shit too, just like putting up, I don't even know the word, just like album things are over each town we go to and stuff like that, and doing a lot of like grassroots promo. And then this thing, the band does a lot more of that. Like I kind of just like, I write the songs and stuff, but the band does a lot of like I said, like I don't know shit about recording really well and things like that, or like they like to do the set list. I literally could be like, all right, Breathe Country next, all right, Trippin' next. Like I could free range it, but the band is very into writing the set list before, so they do that kind of before the show. We switch it up, and and then it's just good because we have a tour manager, which is nice to kind of handle like the shit that we'd normally be doing, like running the merch and getting photos and all that type of crap. So that's been good. Our good friend Bill Brock. And it's been cool. And I got my Steam thing. I use a Steam thing for my voice because we go ham on stage, and our guy's a booking agent for a lot of reggae bands. And so it took a minute in the beginning. We were doing a little bit too long of sets for like our style, you know, and it was like taking a toll on my voice. But the doctor helped me and got me some crap to pull out because I got vocal, like laryngitis, for lack of better words, or vocal hoarseness is basically, you know.
Yeah.
But I've had to go back home, see my girlfriend, see my dog. This is my dog, dude. I love this pup. I bring her on tour sometimes, but it's just a little too hot playing Arizona and shit like that. I can't fucking bring. But I'm glad to just be home for a minute and rehab and then jump back into it, you know.
Awesome.
We leave, I think, tomorrow morning again to Medford.
Okay, that's cool. Awesome. So, like, one of our last questions we always ask is, you know, over at Living Life Fearless, which is what we are, we always say that you have to be kind of fearless when you're a creative person because you're putting yourself out there, like, to the masses for people to just kind of see a piece of you that you normally wouldn't show. Like, do you agree with that? Do you agree with our sentiment? And do you have any advice for like other up and coming artists?
Yeah, I think just like anything, that's a great question. I think anything, like I'm kind of and I think the more you do anything, the more you get used to it. So I'd tell people, just don't be afraid to jump into something and just work your way up and get more comfortable with it just by doing it over and over until it's second nature. I think that's how I got better at music. And I think that, I just basically, I like to kind of transcend when I'm nervous. I like to transcend somewhere else, like a swimming hole in my head or like some peaceful spot or Hawaii or like, and I like to think about what I'm grateful for, kind of touching base with what we were talking about how some people don't have dads or they were born with cancer, and think about the shit that's really real in the world. Maybe write it down and be like, I do have things to be grateful for. And then that way you can kind of start at a bed rather than like the shit that doesn't matter in your head, as we all do. And I do time after time, but you know, that helps me is gratitude and transcending in practice.
All right.
Great question.
Great answer. Do we have any other future plans, any goals for the band in the immediate future outside of the tour and the album, obviously?
I just think a lot of the bands that we'll be working with, maybe working a little bit with Spray Allen and that band with Eric Wilson, maybe kind of getting some hindsight from them and stuff like that. And Sensi Trails, another reggae band, probably do some more shows with them. And probably we'll finally be able to get over more to the East Coast, I think, in this year, which is a really big hurdle for us. And just very grateful for everybody who's listening to us online on YouTube, Spotify, the people buying merch, the enthusiasts who, you know, have a lot of life going on, so take the time. Obviously, thank you to all them. That's kind of pretty much it. Just thank you to everybody helping us. It means a lot. Awesome. And we're just going to keep playing throughout the world more and more music to come.
Cool. Everybody be on the lookout for that. We'll have all their socials and everything on the links down below. And definitely go stream that album up, ADHD, out now. And, you can come out here to Phoenix. I'm about to pull up by you guys and bring you guys some shirts.
Hell yeah.
So.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man.
Thanks for talking to us. And, best of luck with everything. We'll
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.